welcome back. You know, it's always a tragedy when a thing of beauty has to get barred up because of the errant actions of wastrel mortals. Churches should be sacrosanct, don't you think? They're the castles of the modern age, I suppose. Once upon a time, even now, we walk around the ruins of castles, and they tell us a little about our history, and now these churches lie empty, and they do the same thing. Your mother probably told you you are what you eat, in a good effort to attempt to make you eat healthily, or at least not eat too many sweeties, too much orange pop. Well, as it is true for the kind, it is true for the kindred. You are what you eat. It is a controversial topic. Many vampires like to brush it off, pretend that it is not something that affects them, but it does affect them. You are what you eat. This applies on many levels. 1, you are a human being. You may not like the idea. You may think, I am a big bad vampire destined to prey on all kind, but you are a mortal in a sense, with a terrible, terrible curse. You are still human. 2, the blood you drink has a very physical, very real effect on the way you behave. This is not some new school of thought. It has existed for centuries. I recall when I was but a neonate, and that is some time ago, alchemists saying that if you mix this blood from this mortal and that blood from another, it would affect you thusly. They had hit and miss results. Some attempted to codify it, some attempted to forge it into some school of medicine, but ultimately alchemy was how it was treated. And alchemy has always had its doubters, for good reason. It is impossible to turn lead to gold, and so when all blood looks the same under a microscope, as it does, unless you have some grievous illness, it is difficult to really ascertain how blood can differ. Does it differ to us on a supernatural level? Is it the amount of adrenaline flowing around a body? Is it the amount of iron someone has in their diet? You are what you eat, and therefore the blood that you drink affects you. But is it on a biological level? Is it on a spiritual level? I will give you an example. If I was chasing a young man through the fields around here, and he was scared, frightened for his life, his heart beating in his chest, pumping the blood energetically around his system like a piston, and I sank my fangs into him, and that warm, no, hot blood poured from a vein into my mouth, showering it full, coating the roof, the tongue, the insides of my cheeks, and every tooth running down my gullet. That blood would taste differently to if I crept in through someone's bedroom window and drank from them while they were sleeping, like a sandman, like a cauchemar. Those blood types would taste very differently, but those are just the 2 extreme examples. Everyone assumes that fear brings out something in the blood. Everyone assumes that relaxation brings out something in the blood. And the Greeks had it, to a degree, correct when they were talking about different humours. You have the choleric humour, the melancholic, the phlegmatic, the sanguine. If your vessel, your prey, is experiencing a heightened emotion of either type, and to clarify, if you are unfamiliar with the term, the choleric would be a vicious or unpleasant attitude. If someone was angry with you, you could say they had an excess amount of cholera, an imbalance in the humours. If they were melancholic, that should speak for itself. They are likely sad, maybe depressed, maybe they're in mourning. Phlegmatic is an interesting one. because that is usually when someone is utterly passive, or when someone is doped, someone is in an ultra-lucid state. And, of course, sanguine, when someone is joyful, someone is experiencing a giddiness of emotion, orgasmic, you could say. Each of these imbalances generates a different feel, a different taste. The blood may run a little quicker, it may taste a little saltier, it may be a little thicker, it may have lumps in it with every swallow. Each one affects the flavour and the effect of the drink. Now, at a very base level, all it does is make us run a little faster, think a little sharper, but at a more acute level, we, the Cainites, can start grooming our kine, our vessels, our herd, into behaving in a certain way. Believe me, I would never encourage the abuse of a vessel, sustained over a period of time, breaking them down into a hollow shell of a mortal, because we must maintain our humanity. It is possible to gain many stains on the soul if you were to excessively torture a victim. But if you decided to follow this route, you would end up with a very refined, an Epicurean delight, should one say, of blood awaiting for your mouth. Because you have refined it, like a steak being tenderized, like a wine in a cellar for hundreds of years. The flavour just gets sharper and sharper. There are various, as I say, extremes that can bring out certain reactions, and also that can affect our disciplines, as they are called, our Cainite gifts. Feeding from animals, as an example, is more likely to make one develop the powers that enable one to speak to, control animals, and control the beast of other Cainites. Likewise, feeding from the angry, feeding from those choleric people, is more likely to make one more prone to physical violence. But if one were to take it to a different extreme, feeding from someone on some downer drug that sends them into a catatonic stupor, that would numb your body as well. And it is not the chemical in the blood that does that. I need to remind you of this. It is not that your victim has taken an excessive amount of opium and now the opium is working its way on you. Remember, your body is dead. It is all about their emotion, all about their soul, and how you are drinking a tiny fraction of that soul when you drink from them. So when you drink from that opium fiend, your body no longer feels pain. Someone could cut you open, someone could burn you, and you would shrug it off. Oh, your body would still take the hit, but you would still act as normal. Indeed, there are other effects catalogued. If you were to feed from someone in true love, for instance, if you were to feed from a particularly vicious individual, you will become a more intimidating vampire. There are some of us who try to catalogue the different emotions, the different... they go by various names, the different temperaments of the kine, and the different circumstances that can lead to the ultra-refined temperament. Such Cainites are often referred to as Epicureans, as alchemists, and there is even a subsect, one could say, of the Camarilla called the circulatory system. Wonderful play on words, I'm sure you will agree, that to my knowledge is founded by Malkavians and Thinbloods, Duskborn, you may know them as. And these circulatory system members, they excel in the trafficking of kine from domain to domain. They go from Chicago to Milwaukee, they go from London to Glasgow, from wherever to wherever, bringing certain mortals with them in their padded vans with their tinted windows, because they know there is a buyer on the other end. There will always be an incredibly wealthy Ventru, or an incredibly wealthy toreador is the most likely candidate. The toreador wishes to experience everything. So the toreador has every kind of vessel brought to them, like a blue apron order. A different meal every week. The venturer, on the other hand, has to ask for the same meal every single week, but at least with an organization like the circulatory system, she can do that and not be afraid of running out of her favored vessel. As there is a practicality to it in that case. We are what we eat, but we are defined what we eat. We are defined by what we eat. The venturer are defined by what they eat. The toreador are defined as sensualists or decadents. The bruja may wish to feed off of particularly choleric vessels just so they can have a true brew of anger within them. Just the same as a member of the clan of death may feed from someone ultra-phlegmatic, so they can feel that bit closer to death. The Thin Bloods, a disgusting breed, supposedly a portent of Gehenna, but, as we know, we are still here. The Thin Bloods, they practice an alchemy. They need the blood of different kind in order to wield their powers, craft their powers. They can, and to make it sound like a layman's term, create their own disciplines using different brews of blood, but they still require copious amounts of this blood over a sustained period of time. This is not something they can just brew in a bottle and say, Eureka, I am now capable of X. I have been to parties in Elysia where unique vessels are brought through. People who have experienced this and that. Someone who has been in love, lost their love to a tragic circumstance, and wishes revenge on the person who caused it. And just like that, we have someone who is sanguine, someone who is melancholic, and someone who is choleric. Now, one may outweigh the other, but the heady cocktail that one imbibes when one pays the price, the sommelier who is drafting these kind, can be like nothing else. As I say, we have done this practice. We have practiced it for centuries, millennia even. And perhaps it is one of our ultimate decadences that it took the 21st century, it took the Second Inquisition, making us have to refine from where we were drinking, that caused us to start cataloguing, that caused us to start practicing this alchemy, that made us truly celebrate this with parties. Because now, a meal is not just a meal. A gangrel or Nosferatu may be content for their happy meal as they gallop along the streets, take down a random passer-by and drink from them, drink their fill, and not care what's running in that blood, whether it be disease, whether it be sadness. They do not care. But the high clans, the refined vampires, they care. And because they cannot just take people off of the pavement, well, it becomes a whole new market. A market of we are what we eat. We are defined by them. We are shaped by them. I have my favorites. I am sure, Neonate, that you will develop some of your own.